All right, Matt. Well, Super Bowl week is finally upon us. We have concluded the Pro Bowl games. Uh, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention at all. I kind
I
of just,
watched maybe like the first 5 minutes and the last 2 minutes on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. I don't know. I think the flag football is better than how the game was going itself, but I guess the challenges are even more exciting, I would think, um, than anything else. So. I don't know. I still don't know what the right formula is for the Pro Bowl, but I think it's better. It's like a little more watchable to me than before. But
Well, before when they used to play at Aloha Stadium, with like the Sean Taylor guys like that, when they were actually playing real football, that was really exciting. But the past few years, they've been having tackle football. It was a pretty bad showing, and it's still not up to what you would say the standards are for an all-star game. Like I think Major League Baseball is still the standard of an all-star game, but you know what? They're trying. It's a work in progress, but I guess it's a wait and see moment for years to come at this point.
yeah, well, since it's that time of the year again, Matt, Super Bowl, which means football season is unfortunately coming to an end. But I mean, it's the biggest event in, I would say, all of sports, right? Um, Most tuned in games. So let's get into our predictions and breakdowns here. Start with Kansas City, who are surprisingly, I think, the underdogs here. Mahomes is an underdog. You don't see that too often, but kind of just breaking down the Chiefs season as a whole, Matt, up until this point. So started off pretty shaky, right? Had the Thursday night game against Detroit, who was coming, off a hot streak to end last season and carried it over into the beginning of this year. And, we really saw in that game one how the Kansas City offense was going to have to figure out a way to produce yards and points without, Tyreek Hill or even just with someone else besides Travis Kelsey. Saw it. That was the infamous Kadarius Toney game, right? I think he had three drops in that one leading to the pick six that ultimately sealed it for the Lions. So that game itself honestly kind of resonated throughout the entire regular season of the Kansas City Chiefs, leading me to believe that this was the year that Mahomes would not be getting back to the AFC Championship game. I didn't know who was going to beat him, but just with how they had looked, didn't really give me any faith to believe that they would, let alone the Super Bowl. I didn't even think they were going to make it to the championship game. But I think the narrative of this team has shifted a little bit. I think everyone can acknowledge now the strong point of this team is their defense with Steve Spagnuolo, with the young guys that they have, in their secondary and really good core guys up front, like Chris Jones, all pro. So yeah, just a little bit of a different vibe to this team, but still, nonetheless, best team in the AFC came out on top again, went through, I would say, the top teams in the AFC to get here through the playoffs, right? You go through Miami, then Buffalo and Baltimore. I think, no one's going to argue at that point. Those are probably the top teams in the AFC.
And I
Um,
will say that two of them are on the road. That's a
Two of
big
them on
deal.
the road. Um, and really the first road tests of Patrick Mahomes' career up until this point, which is saying something. But he did enough on offense to allow that defense to really, buckle down and get after the top, quarterbacks in the AFC. So, um, yeah, Matt, I think uh, the playoffs to me really spoke volumes to how this team is going to have to win. Um, and it's really about, can they do enough on offense? Because I don't think they're going to put up a lot of points. And I don't think, um, it's going to be a flashy, like, I don't think Mahomes is going for 300 in the air, but I think they found their identity. They have stuck with the run surprisingly throughout these, three playoff games. Uh, Successful or not, I think Pacheco, is getting 20 plus touches in each of these games so far. Even though he wasn't churning out the yards per se. Um, the fact that Andy Reid, who, you know, earlier in his career kind of was alluded to as, yeah, he's an offensive genius, but he gets a little bit too aggressive. He wants to be the passing guy. He wants to be creative to the point where it's really just, calm, cool, and collected play calling. We're taking what the defense gives us. Yeah, they still have the wrinkles in there now and then of creativity, but just the whole dynamic of this team has changed. And to me, it's even scarier, this team than ever before, because now there's so many ways that they could beat you. And really got to see that in all of their playoff games so far this season, Matt. So uh, yeah, it was a down year for Patrick Mahomes, if you can call it that. Not in the MVP. Oh, I'm sorry. He is in the No, he's not in the
Is he in the
MVP.
final? I don't think he's in the
He's
finals
not,
this year.
sorry, he's not in the MVP conversation this year, which is a rarity. But nonetheless, I don't think he really cares if he's going to get another Super Bowl ring out of it. And Matt, we can't go without discussing the other off the field storyline of the Kansas City Chiefs all year. Uh, Kind of adding to a little bit of the animosity with this team. I think with some NFL fans, I would say the Taylor Swift, era in Kansas City, if you want to call it that. Started off, it was pretty cool. Like, oh yeah, wow, this is great. Bringing in viewers and stuff like that. Um, and I don't blame like anyone, you know, necessarily, other than the NFL media team that just keeps like pushing it on everyone. Like, I don't hate, the relationship or them. You pan to her. Oh yeah, that's cool. Taylor Swift's here to support her boyfriend. That's great, but it's like all these posts like over and over and over. And it's like, okay, I mean, we know at this point, right?
We
Hey,
know they're dating.
we know they're dating. Everyone knows they're dating. Hey, if you want to show me like them after the game, you celebrating, that's cool. You want to pan to her once, when he scores, that's cool. But I don't need to see it like over and over. That's just me. I mean, everyone,
Yeah,
feels a
I'm
little
with
bit
you.
differently.
I'm with you.
Because I have nothing against it. I think it's good that it is bringing in a new audience for the NFL, which is a good thing. Um, get more a different fandom involved in watching sports and getting involved in sports. That's great, but it just felt like a little bit too much. No one else from it's really just like the ESPN or the NFL, these sports media pages that I'm just like, okay, can we get something else? But yeah, even Travis Kelsey, I don't know what was happening with him, if it's just father time is undefeated, but he hasn't looked like himself really up until this last AFC championship game, the entire year. Uncharacteristic drops, not getting as wide open as he used to. I know they're double teaming him a lot more, but just didn't seem as much of a threat, but right when I was, thinking that here he goes for 11 catches, 100 plus, and a touchdown, in their biggest game up to the year at that point. So maybe they finally figured it out. Better late than never. Um, but yeah, even with a down year, still getting to 11 wins, still getting to the 3 seed in the tough AFC. I mean, just got to tip your cap to the Chiefs organization as a whole, both sides of the ball, um, to get this to this point. So we'll get into the predictions in a little bit, Matt. But since I ran down the Chiefs, why don't you kind of break down the Niners, how they got here?
Yeah, the Niners, I mean, pains me to say it, I think for those of you that listen, I do have a brother, a family member that likes the 49ers. So always going to be cheering against them for the most part. But I do have to admit, from the start of the season, even in the preseason, they were always considered a top two team in the NFC and really consistently throughout the entire season. Even when they had that kind of rough stretch, nobody really was like, oh my gosh, like, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're falling off a cliff. Like, there wasn't really that panic. And like, even with the Chiefs, I think there was a more of a panic for them than with the 49ers. And the 49ers had a rough stretch in the middle of the season. So, they start off strong, right? They clobbered Dallas. That was kind of the cap of their, you could say, first quarter of the season. And then they had that rough 3 game stretch. They lost 3 games in a row. Brock Purdy kind of was like, oh, he's coming down to earth. Um, is he figured out? And then really from that moment, they kind of took off with the one exception to Baltimore, which is the game that they lost late in the season. But really outside of that, um, they've been a model of consistency in the NFC. Um, with Christian McCaffrey, I think for him, his first full season as a 49er, I think we really saw what Kyle Shanahan can do with this kid. I mean, I said it last week. I mean, he's earned the right to be the best running back in football at this point, and he showed it this year. He was just an unstoppable force. They go as he goes, basically, but they're so explosive that even when he doesn't have his quote unquote monster game, you got guys like Debo Samuel. You got guys like George Kittle. You got guys like Brandon Ayuk. You even got guys like Jawan Jennings, very under the radar, but they still find a way to make plays and just make this offense explosive. But really, the defense, you could say, had a down year from what they were previously, in large part to losing D'Amico Ryans to the Texans. So obviously, you bring in Steve Wilkes, a new system. It'll take some time. I still think haven't quite had that defensive edge as they had in the previous years, but they're still a top-notch defensive unit. But really, the story of this season for me, and really for their team, has been Brock Purdy. Everybody knew if this guy can just play up to his capabilities and exceed expectations, this team can go and win it all. And Brock Purdy has answered that bell in every way, shape, and form to be in the MVP conversation really throughout the whole year. I believe he is a finalist for the NFL Honor Awards this year. And, the NFL media, they try to write this guy off. They try to play, every scenario. Oh, well, he never was put in this situation. Oh, can he lead a comeback? Well, he kind of made us all, including myself, eat crow because in their playoffs, their 2 wins were comeback victories. And Brock Purdy was a huge part and the main part of that comeback. I mean, if he doesn't play well, they don't have a chance. You go back to the Green Bay game. They were down to their last drive of the season. They needed a touchdown. And Brock Purdy orchestrated that drive and got them, in a goal-to-goal situation. And obviously McCaffrey takes in the touchdown from the short yardage game. But Brock Purdy made the throws there. And then you go back or you go forward to the next game against Detroit. They're down 24-7. Detroit has them on the ropes. You can't really just run the ball, sort of say. Brock Purdy is going to have to make plays down 3 scores. What does he do? Yeah, he just goes absolutely crazy in the second half, and they end up winning. Well, they win by 3, but ended up taking a 10-point lead at one time. So I think Brock Purdy has earned that right to say he's a top-notch quarterback in this league. And that's the reason why they're in the Super Bowl this year. It's truly, I believe, the emergence of Brock Purdy and the way that he's been able to handle those late game pressure situations, because that wasn't the case early in the season. And that's why they lost those three games in a row when they had that rough stretch. He wasn't able to deliver, but he grew, he learned from it, and he delivered when it counted the most in the playoffs. So that's where we are. That's where we are with the 49ers. They've been the model consistency in the NFC this year. And I guess to some surprise, they're playing the defending champs, but not really. But here we are, the Chiefs and the 49ers, who got the rematch from what is that, 2019, I believe, the Super Bowl where the Chiefs came out. So it'll be interesting. A lot of guys are still, I believe, on both teams for the most part. The core is still there, so I think both teams are hungry for this one.
Yeah. So let's get into the game itself, Matt. Um, I'll kind of take the Chiefs what or I'll take the Chiefs game plan to victory here, at least in my opinion. So let me start by saying I want the Niners to win because
Ooh, we are opposite.
I don't want I don't know the um it's a little bit of the saltiness, right? Kansas City has been the big dog in the AFC for so long. And yeah, maybe since I am the new Dolphins fan, right? I don't want to see them do it. But also, like as a Tua guy, Brock Purdy is a little bit similar to Tua, right? Like they're they get hated on a lot. They're not the most athletic guys. They're in this timing based offensive system. I see a lot of similarities with just how people view them. So maybe that's also why I'm kind of cheering for Brock Purdy. Also, my girlfriend Maddie, she's a Niners fan, so I'm like supporting that train too. Um, but
Hey,
I'll
just cause your girlfriend likes the
no,
49ers
I
doesn't mean
know.
you gotta
Okay,
like
I know
them.
that, but I'm saying like if I mean I'm impartial both ways, right? So if I'm gonna lean one way, that's the way I'm gonna lean. Um, but
Okay.
also from what I said, like I want kind of the Brock Purdy, narratives to be kind of mellowed out. And also I like George Kittle, I think he deserves a ring. So let me just start by saying that. But uh since I have watched the Chiefs, a lot this postseason, I do think they are the favorites for me. We'll get into the actual predictions later, but game plan wise, Matt, I think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you stick with exactly what you've been doing on the offensive side of the ball, and that is establish the run and stick to the run. The one thing I alluded to earlier about Andy Reid is he has stuck with the run throughout these playoffs, even when it's not working. And I think that is going to be the key because, yeah, the Niners, they won two games in these shootouts, but they were getting gashed, right? Against Green Bay, Aaron Jones was chunking them early on. The Lions, their creativity, getting guys out on the perimeter. Jameson Williams had that long touchdown. Gibbs and Montgomery were really doing whatever they wanted early in that first half. So I don't know. To me, the Niners' run defense is a weakness. And with Kansas City's ability to run the ball more effectively now than they have before, I think that's going to be kind of the key to victory for them. And, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to make plays. That's kind of a given at this point. And so I think it's just going to be he's going to make two or three crucial third downs in the second half, whether that's scrambling, finding a guy, making some heroic throw, or using his legs. Because you just can't contain him. You can try, you just can't contain him because it's so unnatural how he moves around in the pocket. Um, but with that being said, I really do think it's going to come down to the run for Kansas City's offense. And on the flip side, Kansas City's defense, I mean, they just Steve Spagnuolo is just on fire with these game plans that he's been coming out. Really, Buffalo kind of had the most success, but to me, that's kind of hard because Buffalo's seen them so much; they know exactly what Spagnuolo wants to do. Um, and personally, I think the Niners are going to get off to a slow start, and I don't think Andy Reid and that experienced coaching staff is going to allow these players to, make a mistake or put them in a position to make a mistake to give the Niners the ball back, late in the game, because that's kind of what helped fuel the Niners comeback against Detroit, right? Detroit had the big lead, but, Dan Campbell, a little bit too aggressive for both of our tastes, right? Going forward on fourth downs, a Gibbs fumble, those plays really were huge. And I just don't think Kansas City is going to make the mistake of, whether it's making a bad coaching call or questionable decision or something like that. Um, And so I do think it'll be a close one. But yeah, defensively, uh, they know Christian McCaffrey is the number one priority, so they're going to do their best. And it's going to be islands. It'll be a fun matchup because these two young corners of Kansas City, they played well, but I think they have their toughest task yet with Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I think both those guys will make plays, but to me, it'll be the red zone defense of Kansas City that I think they're going to hold the Niners to three one too many times. And for me, that's going to be the difference in this game. So I'll get to my prediction later, Matt, but that's kind of my game plan for Kansas City.
Okay, okay. I think for the Niners, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but I'll say offensively, they got to get off to a fast start. I mean, I don't think if you're the Niners, you want to play behind, especially against Patrick Mahomes. Like that just makes his job way too easy. I mean, and vice versa. Like you've played behind 2 games in a row, especially the last game when you're behind 3 scores in the second half. No offense, but Detroit, Jared Goff, a young team, not a lot of playoff experience versus the defending champs and a 2 time Super Bowl winner at quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Kind of a different skill, I think, with there. So I think you start off fast, you play with the lead because that plays to your strength, which is running the football and play actioning with Brock Purdy. I think that just makes his job much easier. And for all these narratives out there, it's like, oh, can Brock Purdy win the big game? He can. Like he's shown that the past 2 games, so we don't need to see that. I think if you're a San Fran fan, you want to see him play with the lead and be a game manager in this situation. So I look for the Niners to jump out, get a fast start, and defensively, call me crazy, maybe, but make Patrick Mahomes beat you. I think they've had an identity, and you brought it up. Pacheco is an X factor in this game. He really is. I mean, he really has been great this entire season. I think if you get him going, Patrick Mahomes is going to kill you off play action with Kelsey, Rashee Rice. But if you let Patrick Mahomes just drop back, say you make him throw 40, 50 times in the game, what is your greatest strength on defense? Your front seven. Bosa, Chase Young, Javon Hargraves, Eric Armstead. You could easily say all 4 of those guys. Make a case they could be in the Pro Bowl. And oh, by the way, you got Joey Greenlaw and Fred Warner, arguably the 2 best linebacker tandem in the NFL. I want those guys wrecking the game, causing Patrick Mahomes to play under pressure. And the blueprint was there. Tom Brady, they gave us a blueprint with Tampa Bay. Cover 2, and you have a hellacious pass rush. You can stop this Kansas City offense. And especially without that deep ball threat with Tyreek Hill, there's a chance. There's a chance this year for the Niners. So I think that's going to be the key for them. Um, Establish the run early, play with the lead, and let your pass rushers go to work in the second half.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of touched on X factors here, Matt. Just real quick. So for Kansas City, my X factor is going to be Rashee Rice. He's kind of been the guy to step up so far without really that designated number 2 guy. I think he's kind of cemented himself though at this point as that number 2 guy on the Kansas City offense because he's gonna just have to beat the man coverage. I genuinely think that's what it's gonna be. If he can win on those 1 or 2 third downs, I think the ball is gonna find him because, like you alluded to, get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And as much as I love the names on the 49ers defensive line, Matt, haven't they've been kind of quiet. Like
Mm-hmm.
just to be honest, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, you hear, oh yeah, man, that's a heck of a pass rush right there. But you know, haven't had too big of an impact in these past 2 games. I know they got their sacks eventually, but it just hasn't been that hellacious pass rush that you alluded
It
to.
hasn't had the like
That
the real like fear factor,
yeah,
like
exactly.
previous years.
Exactly. So I do think they're gonna have to blitz a little bit, leaving the back end exposed 1-on-1. And I still think you kind of have to shadow Kelsey wherever he's playing. So Rasheed Rice, can you get open? Can you make the play when your opportunity arises? To me, that's Rasheed Rice. And then on the Niners side, weirdly enough, I think it's gonna come down to I don't know. See, it's hard because they're all stars, so it's hard to pick like an X factor per se. But uh, if you really want to pick one for me, it's gonna be Fred Warner because I think he's gonna have to, make the adjustments on the field. The call is gonna come in, but when you're on the field, I think it's a little bit different, and I want to see his growth from that previous Super Bowl playing against Patrick Mahomes. Is he's gonna have to do kind of everything. He's gonna have to tackle Pacheco. He's gonna have to cover Travis Kelsey on occasion. He may even be the one to spy Patrick Mahomes. So to me, I think if the Niners do want to win this game, he's gonna have to make a big play to get a stop late in the game, whether it's one of those three things, guarding, Kelsey, or honestly tracking down Mahomes, which is probably a little bit harder.
It's sneaky hard to
Yeah,
do.
sneaky hard to do. So I do think Fred Warner is my X factor in this one.
Okay. I'm gonna go a little bit of a different route. Um, I'm gonna go true X factor. I don't think you would expect me to say this one, but for the Chiefs, I really think the X factor in this game is Jawan Taylor. And the casuals are gonna be like, who the heck is this guy?
The tackle.
He's the right tackle for the Chiefs. And I do have to mention him because he does lead the NFL in penalties this year. And he would be going up against a guy by the name of Nicholas John Bosa. So, yeah, the Nick Bosa against the guy who leads the NFL in penalties on paper, that's a scary matchup. And we've all seen the script a few years ago when the Chiefs lost to the Bucks. It was Shaq Barrett. I mean, Jawan Taylor wasn't on the team, but Shaq Barrett, coming off the edge, he was just a menace. So could you imagine what Nick Bosa can do? The type of player that he is. So Jawan Taylor, you're going to need to have the game of your life in this game because if you do not play up to what you can play up to, it's going to be a long night for you, and it's going to be potentially a Von Miller-esque MVP performance from Nick Bosa. That's how scary it can be. If not, you're going to have about 4 holding penalties that are just going to kill drives. That's how important I think that matchup is. Just to be able to hold his own, and whether Andy Reid has to send help, you have Kelsey Chip, you have your running backs help in protection. I don't know. I think you're going to have to do that, but Jawan Taylor is going to have to hold up his share of that bargain against that matchup. So I think that's a huge matchup to watch for the Chiefs. And then for the Niners' sake, like you said, right, there's a lot of star power on this team. But I think the X factor is Brandon Ayuk. With the Kansas City defense, Steve Spagnuolo, he's going to take away your main guy, I feel like. So McCaffrey, I wouldn't be surprised if he has less than 100 yards. They kind of stifle him. And then theoretically, you kind of touched on it, right? The Chiefs, you're going to take away Kelsey. If that's you're playing against the Chiefs, take away Kelsey. So the number 2 guy is got to have to make a big play. Well, I think Debo, not necessarily they're going to take him away because I think he's not a traditional wide receiver, in my opinion. He's kind of a running back / a hybrid player where it's like, just get him the ball, whether if it's a jet sweep, a handoff, a reception. You just want him to get the ball, and if he has space, that's when he's going to do damage. But I'm talking about pure wide receiver, route running, being able to create separation. That's Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is that guy for the 49ers, and it's going to be key because he's going to have to go up against L'Jarius Sneed, Trey McDuffie, 2 all-pro caliber corners out there. And Brock Purdy is going to have to make throws eventually. And the only way he can do that, guys got to get open. And I think Brandon Ayuk is the best chance for them to create a mismatch one-on-one and to kind of bail out Brock Purdy in those clutch third downs where you just need to lock in and make a big throw. I think that's a matchup to watch on the outside. Can Brandon Ayuk win one-on-one against those tough corners? I think he can because I think he's sneaky. He's a very sneaky, underrated receiver that I like in this Niners offense. So that's who I'm looking out for the Niners to make big plays is Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need him to make plays if they want to win this game. I think the opportunity will definitely present itself. And he just kind of
Mm-hmm.
had that magic for them all year, even if you want to go back to
Mm-hmm.
the Detroit game, right off the helmet. So seems like it's kind of his time to take over, but I guess we'll have to find out on Sunday. So Matt, with that being said, um, before we get into the predictions here, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, on pace for I'm not going to say Tom Brady stuff, but really to get three, Matt, once you get three Super Bowls, that puts you in a completely different airspace. All time greats, some of them, with one or even with two, right? You got Peyton, even Eli, right? With two, kind of cement yourself as one of the best to ever do it. Once you get to three, Matt, I think you're kind of in a different airspace. That's like Montana, right? For example, kind of just puts you in a different realm of uh stardom within NFL history. So yeah, I do think this is a legacy game for him. To if he can get to three, he's what, 28, I believe.
28.
He has a lot of football left to be played. And quite honestly, you being a Brady fan, you must be a little bit scared if he does win this one because three by the time he's 28, and I think he's just gonna continue to play at a high level for a long time. Might catch Tom. If there's one guy that's gonna catch Tom, I think it's gonna be Pat. But yeah, definitely a statement game for him here. I don't know, Matt. What do you think? Do you think he gets to Tom if he wins this one?
Ooh, I mean, no, I'm not gonna say that just yet because Tom Brady, remember, he won three right out of the gates, like
That's
even
true.
before Mahomes, and then there was that huge dry spell where they just didn't win. Like they consistently made the playoffs and not, but there was that spell, and even that consisted of a team going, I think they were what, 16, 7, 18 and 0 going into the Super Bowl with the year they lost to Eli the first time,
Mhm.
undefeated, trying to tie the Dolphins, for going undefeated through a whole season and they lose, right? So crazy things happen in the NFL. I'm not going to jump to conclusions just yet, but as far as a legacy game, I don't think this is a legacy game at all for Mahomes. It's really just gravy at this point. And he's really shown that he's, I would say right now top 3 of all time.
Oh, I think I agree.
Whatever order you put it, that's your choice. But it's him, Brady, Montana. I think that's a pretty undisputed top 3. I would go to war against anybody and debate that if that's not the case. But I would say they're comfortably in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. So I think there's no pressure. He won 2 already, and really the narrative was, can he win playoff games on the road? Well, he kind of just answered that this year, right?
Yeah, kind of just checked all
You
the
went,
boxes
and
now.
where did he go? Oh, he went to Buffalo, the arch rival. He beat a top tier quarterback, Josh Allen. And oh yeah, where does he go next? Oh, he goes to Baltimore, beats the number 1 seed, and who's going to be the MVP this year? And Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Yeah. So I don't think there's pressure from Mahomes, but like you said, if there is a guy that's going to catch Brady, it will not surprise me if it is Mr. Mahomes when it's all said and done. Especially, he's got to stay healthy though. That's the only thing that's scary. And I think with the NFL rules now, with the protection of quarterbacks to our disliking, I think as well for me, I'm a defensive guy by heart, but they really do protect the quarterbacks nowadays. So I think he's 28. I could see him. I don't know if he'll go to 45. He's a mobile guy, so maybe another 10, 12 years, I would say. He's got a shot.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap up the game itself here, Matt. We got our predictions now. Um, I'm always gonna ride that high of predicting the perfect score a few years ago with the Rams and the Bengals, because I mean, just textbook analysis by me there, right?
Okay,
But
yeah.
okay, well,
I
just
totally forgot about that, but now
yeah,
that you mentioned it, yeah,
I'm
that
gonna bring
makes
it
me
up every year.
sick.
I'm gonna bring
Yeah,
it up
okay.
every year. So, uh, yeah, to I don't know if I could follow up on that, but let me just get into this one, Matt. So the line itself, I believe it's shifted down now to I think the Niners are favored only by 1.5. So it seems like since it opened at 2.5, a lot of people taking Kansas City. And then the under or over under is at I'm seeing around 47.5 a lot of places. I am confident that the under is gonna hit in this one, Matt, just because like we alluded to, both teams looking to establish the run and keep the other team's offense off the field. Kansas City's defense playing really well, so give me the under. I like that pretty comfortably. And like I said, Matt, I do want the Niners to win, but I'm thinking with my brain here and not my gut or my heart. My brain tells me that Kansas City comes out in a close one here. Final score 23-20. So
23-20. Wow,
23 to
close one.
20, low
Okay.
score, like really low scoring. I think we're going to see decent amount of field goals in this one. So just to give my kind of 2 cents on why I think that's going to happen or how it's going to play out, I should say, Matt. You know, I do think Kansas City is going to come out firing in the first half. I think they'll get up early, and I think that's going to force Kansas City to, or sorry, the Niners to press a little bit, throw a little bit more than they want to. I think Kansas City makes less mistakes. Unfortunately, if I'm choosing between Mahomes and Brock Purdy, I think Brock is going to make just one too much of a hero play at some point in the game, uh, maybe lead to a turnover. So I just think the defense, though, that's the main thing for me. With how Spagnuolo has been game planning against, Tua, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, back to back to back, really kind of holding them down. For the most part, I don't know if Brock has seen a defense quite like that in a little bit, right? I mean, Detroit's defense, wasn't the best. Even the Packers, right? Yeah, they had some good moments, but I don't know if Brock is going to see kind of the different disguises and all that that he's going to see on Sunday. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll come down to it, but I think Harrison Butker's leg as well. I trust a little bit more than Jake Moody because he's been kind of up and down all
I'll give you
year.
that one. I'll give you that
Yeah,
one.
I think he's kind of been up and down all year. Might come down to a missed field goal. So give me 23-20 Kansas City.
23. Okay, well, who's your MVP? I'm gonna guess Mahomes.
Actually, no. So not Patrick Mahomes because I think he throws for one. I think they run in somehow. I don't know who it's going to be, Edwards-Helaire or you know, um, like Pacheco. One of those guys is going to have it's going to be two touchdowns only. I think from Kansas City.
Okay.
One passing, one throwing. So to me, give me I'm gonna go defensive MVP here, Matt. Chris Jones, up front. I think he has, let's call it one pass deflected, 1.5 sacks, and maybe I'm feeling like two tackles for loss, something like that. I really do think it's gonna be a defensive battle, and I think the thing with Brock, these smaller guys, even with Tua, it's when the pressure comes right up the middle at you and you can't step up in the pocket and kind of escape. Because Brock is a little bit crafty, right? I think just Chris Jones is going to be waiting there in the middle. Um, and so yeah, give me Chris Jones MVP.
Okay, that's a bold MVP pick right there. Well, I will say I hope you're right with your prediction
I hope
because
I'm wrong.
like I I'm opposite from you. I am not cheering for the 49ers. I do not want them to win. Like I'm just like you, right? You're a Dolphins fan. I don't think you want the Chiefs to win. I'm a Cowboys fan. That's the last thing I want to see is the 49ers win, unless they're the Eagles, maybe. But no, I don't want the 49ers to win. But on that case, I do think the Niners will win this game. I think there's just something different about this Niners team and really going back to the last matchup that they had in the Super Bowl, I think that Kansas City team was just they were kind of the cream of the crop, you could say. And I'm just gonna keep it plain and simple. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, I think he's gonna be the difference in this game. Um, I could see this game going 24-23 San Francisco and really kind of playing to the script of how they won this postseason. I don't think they're going to get down like, 24-7, but I do think they'll be down in the fourth and Brock Purdy is going to have to lead a touchdown drive to win the game. And I think it's going to be like 23-17, 3 minutes left in the game. They need a touchdown. I think Brock Purdy, he's shown that he can do it. So I'm going to say that he's going to come through yet again. I think 24-23, they get a late touchdown. Hopefully Jake Moody makes the kick to break that tie. But I can see them winning on a touchdown late in the game. I think if there's one guy that can kind of, make the quarterback's job easier, it is the offensive guru himself, Kyle Shanahan. And, it's kind of like that old Super Bowl. I'm just kind of really playing off what I saw in the previous game. The 49ers should have won that game. They really should have beat the Chiefs. And they were, you could say, a couple stops away, but everybody's blaming Jimmy G. Oh, he missed the throw to Sanders. I don't think Brock Purdy's going to miss that throw. I really don't. I think he's going to make those big time throws and have a really big time moment for him in his career. So I think they come out on top 24-23 and he gets Super Bowl MVP. And I don't want to say he's in like a Hall of Fame track, but maybe it's something of a worthy discussion now for those media guys that he's got a ring now. Kind of have to start mentioning him as a top tier quarterback over my guy who has no playoff appearances or no playoff wins this year. Only has 2 in his career. I'm sorry for bringing Dak Prescott up, but I think Brock Purdy passes Dak Prescott in total playoff wins. So actually, he already has. What am I talking about? That's dumb because Dak Prescott has 2. But okay, that's my prediction 24-23 49ers. Brock Purdy
Well,
with the game winning
Matt,
drive.
I hope you're right because I do think if the Niners win this game, it is going to be because of Brock Purdy. And to just reiterate my statement, I do think, Brock might throw a pick somewhere in the game or have a turnover. I don't think he's going to be the reason they lose,
Yeah.
though. Like, I
If he
don't,
throws a pick, it has to be early. I say first
yeah,
half. You got to throw it in
yeah.
the first half.
I don't think he's going to be the reason they lose. I just think the Kansas City defense is going to do enough to
Mm-hmm.
hold them. So I don't think it's going to be because of Brock they lose the game. But yeah, so I hope you're right. You hope I'm right. We'll see on
I hope
Sunday.
I hope you're
We'll
right.
see on Sunday how it goes, Matt. Kind of wrapping up some of the non-game stuff though. Super Bowl halftime, commercials, all the good stuff. Usher's performing this year. Interesting. I haven't heard Usher in a minute, so I'm sure it'll be a pretty good one. He has some classics he's gonna bring out. Um, I don't know. Do you like the Usher pick, Matt?
No, I mean, not to be a hater, but like, no offense, but I think Usher's kind of past his time. And I'm a really huge halftime show critiquer, you could say. Like, it's a Super Bowl, man. This is like the biggest spectacle of sports, really, where even if you don't watch sports, it's like everybody watches the halftime show. Like it's music. Everybody likes music and pop culture. And Usher is kind of like, where have you been, in the past decade? So he's got some bangers. But I like a performer out there. And we already talked about this last year. I'm not going to say who I want in the Super Bowl. Everybody knows that. But I like to see something like that. Like that last year, Rihanna was a good pick. It's just that she was pregnant with
Pregnant,
a baby, so she can't really move. But
right?
if she wasn't, I think that would have been a pretty good one. And I thought it was a good one last year. It's just that she was very limited for, you know, her child being in her body at that
Mm-hmm.
time. But yeah, Usher, I'm not really I haven't really seen too much of him recently, so it's like, is he like a Michael Jackson? You know, like when he had his Super Bowl halftime, or
Okay,
like
well,
a
no one's gonna be
Prince?
like Michael Jackson.
Like, but like, that's what I mean. Like, like if he was alive today and Michael Jackson performed, I think everyone would just be going crazy. Like, oh my gosh, it's Michael Jackson, the king. But Usher doesn't have that aura for me, so I'm not feeling it. But the performance does have the opportunity as always. But I always think, even if you don't have like a good, performance, if you bring out a guest and that guest kind of brings some kind of energy, people talk about your performance. Oh, remember when that guy? Like I always think of Coldplay, right? Like Coldplay was like, oh, he was okay, but
But
it's
then
like,
they
wow,
brought up
you brought up Beyonce, you brought up Bruno Mars again. Like, okay,
that
yeah,
was a fun
that
one. That was a fun
yeah,
one.
but like something like that. Like if you're not a true performer, you got to bring out the guests. So I don't know who he would bring out. Like I don't know. Like I don't know who he does collabs with.
Oh
Like
God,
Will
don't.
I Am? Like no.
I
Like
don't even know.
Pitbull? Like I don't know.
That would
Like
be funny though if he does bring out Taylor since she's already gonna be at the game.
oh god,
That's just like too
the
much. That'd
internet
be
would
too
break.
much. But yeah, that'd be just like a little bit too much. But
Maybe they've been working on a song the past like 2 weeks.
that's just
Oh wait, but
that'll
no,
just be a
that
Chiefs bias at
actually,
that point.
if that happened, that's crazy because I saw on Twitter that she's performing in Japan like the day
Oh
before.
right, right.
So she has to fly to Las Vegas. So I don't even know how you would even sing at that point
Yeah,
after performing.
yeah.
So maybe that might rule it out. But you know, the NFL is scripted, right, for money. So
You're right. Hey, you're right.
so
You
I'm
never
not.
know.
I'm just gonna
You
be
never
like,
know.
I would not be surprised, but I
That
will see
would
the Super Bowl.
explode. Um, Everyone would tune it. Yeah, you're right. So I guess we can't rule that out. Okay, and to wrap up our Super Bowl stuff here, Matt, Super Bowl traditions, I guess you wanted to discuss. Personally, I just watch the game and I eat something, and I sweat out the end of the game. But I don't know what you got any Super Bowl traditions that you partake in?
Yeah, so before the game, I kind of like have my own moment. I don't really show it, but inside I'm dying because it's like I really just want to see a Super Bowl where I can cheer for a team. Not for betting reasons, but for personal reasons, and to really be invested in the game. That's kind of my tradition. So I'm in my feels for like, an hour or two before the game,
What
just
the
kind of
heck?
like wishing like, man, I wish I could just
What, do you just
watch
like
the
lock
Cowboys.
yourself in a room
No,
somewhere, or
I'm
you
not.
just sit in the
No,
car and
no,
just
no. I'm not like depressed. Well, I kind of am, but like I'll just like watch the TV. Like we're all eating, we're having a good
yeah,
time, we're
you just
drinking, but I just look at the TV and it's like, I see the teams run out. It's like, man, I wish that was Dak Prescott instead of Jimmy Garoppolo running out of the tunnel or, like Matt Ryan coming out. So I'm a Cowboys fan. I suffered through it long enough. I just want one moment where I can just enjoy a Super Bowl. So that's the pregame. And then, like just watch the game as an unbiased fan for once, eating good food, drinking some alcohol, and, hopefully win some money with some side bets. That's kind of a always Super Bowl thing. I think
oh
that
yeah,
goes on.
yeah.
But even as a kid, like we used to play, like we always go to Hunter's house and we would have this, we called it the Street Bowl, where all the kids would play
Mm.
a flag football game every Super Bowl. And then they would bring in like an actual high school ref to ref the game.
What?
It was kind of intense. Yeah, like Hunter's dad had a friend that was an OIA football ref, so he would come and he would like yeah, he had whistle, he had like the actual flag, he would call
Oh, that's
flags
kind
on
of
people
nuts.
holding, passing, like it was kind of like yeah, it was crazy. And then all the drunk dads would put bets on like which team's gonna
That's
win. Like, they would
hilarious. Oh,
they
I'm
would
gonna do that with
have
my
like
kids for sure. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
So you're saying the UP gang's gonna just turn into monsters and bet and drink
I mean, maybe. Who
and make
knows?
make money off their kids.
That's that's terrible, but hilarious at the same time. Um,
Yeah, we're a little too old for that. I think it's gotten a little too physical. So if that stopped a long, long time ago. But now we just eat and drink and enjoy the
yeah.
company.
Enjoy the last game of the football season. Yeah. Everyone can enjoy it somehow, some way. So, With that being
Yeah,
said, Matt,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, let's I guess we'll call it on the Super Bowl. This is gonna be our bulk of our stuff. So other topics we did want to discuss this week. Staying in the NFL though, Dan Quinn going to the Commanders. That kind of rounds out the coaching tree across the league now because everything is set. They also hired Kliff Kingsbury, so Eric Bieniemy will not be returning. A little bit of a shocker there. So I don't know, Matt. I think with how everything played out, Matt Vrabel, Bill Belichick not landing any jobs, Ben Johnson. Oh, we already discussed, but I think Ben Johnson returned to the
Yeah,
Lions.
he's going back.
Um, and so yeah, it'll be kind of interesting. I think we're gonna see a lot of these coaching decisions make a big impact in the draft, Matt, because this is like a quarterback heavy draft. A lot of these teams kind of stocked up with some younger guys. Even Kingsbury coming back, I think that's something to keep an eye on for the Commanders with what they're gonna do. But Matt, since it is in your division, how are you feeling about Dan Quinn departing your defensive staff and joining the Commanders?
You know, I'm, mixed emotions, I think. I can't really, I mean, obviously we know what happened in the playoffs, but I can't ignore the fact that we were the worst defense in football when Dan Quinn decided to take over for Mike Nolan after he got released, and he turned us into a top-notch defense. He really has. A quality defense that had the capability to be a Super Bowl winning defense. He's turned in guys like Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland. It helped that he had Micah Parsons come in the draft when he came in as the DC. So he's had guys to work with, but we've seen the potential from some guys break out. So he really has done a lot. I mean, I don't want to put him under the bus or anything, but he's done a lot. But I think, third year, kind of time just took its course. I think it was just, I think everybody's happy, mutual, it was mutual, no hard feelings. But I just think with the way that the season ended this year, there needed to be a change in the locker room with Mike McCarthy coming back. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to run it back and hope for the best." There has to be some kind of change, and maybe it was for the best that the Commanders hired Dan Quinn. Um, the second half of the season, the defense was not very good, honestly. I mean, and we got exposed as a defense. We couldn't stop the run. And when it counted the most against the Packers in the playoffs, we couldn't stop the run even more. It was just worse. We've had blown coverages. I just haven't seen guys that wide open ever, not even in high school football or flag football. Like guys were just wide open on the TV screen, 30 yards of separation. Aaron Jones is getting, 6 yards a carry. Jordan Love has, 7 seconds to throw a pass wherever he wants. So just it was time to make a change. The personnel, we were built on speed. We were exposed. We weren't physical enough up the middle. So I think it's a good change for both of us. And obviously, with him leaving, we need a DC. I don't know who I would say I would want because I don't know the right answer. That's the GM's job and the head coach to do. But the head coach has no say in Dallas because the GM runs the shots for everything, which is why I say we need a real GM and not an 81-year-old owner that just wants media hype. But my heart is saying, I think it's going to be Mike Zimmer or Al Harris. That's just my hunch. Al Harris was on the staff as a DB's coach. Obviously, I think you bring him in, there's some kind of familiarity, and I think you just need to build off of it in the draft and establish some kind of presence up the middle with some defensive tackles, and we need some linebackers, like middle linebackers, weak side, off ball linebacker. We need all of them. We need linebackers. But if it's outside, Mike Zimmer, I think there's some history. Obviously, he was a DC with Bill Parcells, early 2000s. So I think he brings a sort of intensity that kind of like those old school coaches, kind of like a Jimmy Johnson. Obviously, he's not Jimmy Johnson, but that kind of intensity, right? Like I feel like the players around Dan Quinn, it's like the players see Dan Quinn as like a friend. Like I need to see a guy like that's your boss. Like you have to have some kind of fear factor, that hold these players accountable and push them, you know, to go the extra mile. And I think Mike Zimmer brings that old school. So I could see that. But if I'm Jerry, I'm holding him to his feet to the fire. He said we're gonna go all in. If you're gonna go all in, I still believe you still call Belichick, you still call Mike Vrabel. If they say no, whatever. But you still got to kick that door down because you're still saying you're going all in. You need to back up your mouth. So call those guys. If that doesn't work out, then I say you move on to Mike Zimmer or Hal Harris. But I don't know. I really don't know who it's going to be. I heard Ron Rivera kind of leaning towards no on that one because I saw what the Commanders were. That's a disaster. I don't want to be a part of that. The one guy I will take from the Commanders though is Eric Bieniemy. If we can get him on as like a pass game coordinator or something, that would be pretty shrewd, I think. Take some pressure off Mike McCarthy. And, with the Eric Bieniemy tree coming from Andy Reid, we can kind of take a little, Kansas City playbook and elevate that offense. So I could see that as a, potential coaching move that would be pretty shrewd. But outside of that, yeah, Dan Quinn, sum it up. Great guy, did a lot for our team, but I think it's just time to make a change. So it's best for both sides at this point.
Okay. Sounds good. And then just really quick, Matt, Miami also hired their DC, Anthony Weaver from the Baltimore Ravens. We'll see how it goes, but the one thing that I do like what I'm hearing is that he is really open to adapting scheme to personnel. Kind of what rubbed players the wrong way with Vic's system, was he was so set in his ways. He knew exactly what he wanted to run, didn't really adjust, and we kind of saw guys get wide open towards the end of the season. Um, and so I'm not too sure what kind of scheme it's going to be, but I am really excited to at least hear that culturally, within the organization, with Mike being such a player's coach and adapting schemes to his players, good to also hear that on the defensive side. So at least there's kind of cohesion with how we want to address and scheme with our personnel. So that's one thing I'll say. We'll have to see more as we get into OTAs and stuff like that. But that being said, Matt, we can wrap NFL for now. Uh, Moving on to basketball. So Damian Lillard made his return back to Portland. He was there all 4 of our years when we were in school. So kind of odd seeing him in a Bucks jersey in Moda, but credit to the Blazers, they spoiled his return. Came out on top, Matt. And I mean the Bucks just interesting things they got going on with the Doc Rivers hiring. At least they finally got a win with him. But yeah, I don't know. Just weird up and down games from Dame this season. I think too though, he's going through a lot of personal stuff off the court. Family matters and stuff like that.
That's true.
I'm sure it does, kind of affect his day to day. That stuff kind of gets in your head, right? So hopefully, we start to see some better performances from him as hopefully, the off the field stuff kind of eases up for him. But yeah, going back to Portland, that was kind of weird to see, I guess, him and Moda in a different jersey.
Yeah, it
But
was it was pretty emotional for me. Like I was just like, wow, like he's actually not wearing the blue or not the blue, the red and black, right? But it was so weird because you see on the social media pages, like most of the stuff came from the Blazers and not the Bucks, which I thought was really interesting. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a social media team post more about a visiting player than I've seen with this Dame return. Like the Blazers were pulling out everything, the tribute video. They had BO interviewing Dame courtside. She's the courtside reporter for the Blazers. So she did an exclusive sit down with him. Like it was great to see, honestly. Like I loved it. Dame will always be a Blazer at heart. Mhm. He's one of my favorite players, probably my second favorite player, honestly, behind LeBron. So it was a good moment for me to see. It just sucks that Brooke Lopez took the last shot from three. Like, come on, dude, give the ball to Dame. Like, it's the NBA. Give it back to him. It was set up for him to have a Dame Dalla, game winner. And Brooke Lopez said, nah, I'll shoot this. I'll shoot the step back three. But yeah, a tough one for Dame, but it was cool to see and Anthony Simons kind of had the actual game winner, right? The go ahead bucket. So it was kind of like the student beat the teacher, right?
Mm, yeah,
So full circle moment right there, which is really cool to see.
yeah.
So
Um,
hopefully the Blazers lose out the rest of their games so they get the number one pick next year.
yeah, they're probably gonna need it with how they're looking, Matt. But
Yeah.
um, yeah. So trade deadline for the NBA is coming up. Haven't really seen any movement, which is kind of weird. Already Tuesday before the trade deadline. Not real big moves. I'm sure there will be stuff, but just to hit really quickly, I'm kind of torn with the Lakers because I felt like they needed a change. Uh, you know, 3, 4, 5 games ago, but since
They're winning right
they
now.
have beaten the Celtics without LeBron and AD, with Jason Tatum playing, mind you. They then go into Madison Square Garden, beat the Knicks, who have been playing extremely well this entire season. Especially with Jalen Brunson doing his thing, and then obviously take care of business today against Charlotte. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I do think it was a roster and somewhat coaching thing that's been holding the Lakers back thus far. Would I be surprised if they make a move? No. Do I think they absolutely need one? Honestly, no, because this roster showed they could go toe to toe, made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, so I don't know. I think if these guys get going again, I do think something good is going to happen from the season. If we got Austin Reeves playing better, D'Angelo's playing better, those two are really going to be key for them down the stretch. But I don't think they need one. That being said, I do think Palinka is feeling the heat a little bit from just how the season has been going, especially with LeBron. I think he is pushing the Lakers a little bit to make some kind of adjustment roster wise. So I do think something's going to happen. No idea what, honestly, no idea what it's going to be, but I do think something will happen. I just hope it's not a move out of haste and it's, an actual strategic move that makes sense basketball wise. So we'll have to see, kind of keep track there. Always hard when it's a LeBron team, especially when it's the Lakers as well. So yeah, we'll keep an
Yeah,
update
I
on
mean, for
that.
the Lakers, I think that's probably the team that I watched the most too. But I think the loss of Jared Vanderbilt is pretty huge if you're going to make a long playoff run. Like he wasn't very good, or he kind of fell out of the rotation against Denver, but he's a terrific defender, and I think you always need a guy like that to take the pressure off LeBron, AD, keep AD under the paint, be the rim protector, but you don't want guys like LeBron, playing on ball defense against, the Jason Tatum's, or in the West, it's like Kevin Durant, the Steph Currys, right? So I don't know if the Lakers have someone like, I don't know if Max Christie is the answer defensively. I don't think so. Maybe Gabe Vincent if he comes back healthy. I don't know what it is with the Lakers when they take Miami Heat guards and they just get injured and don't play, with the Kendrick Nunn thing, and then now Gabe Vincent, who I thought going into the season was a huge signing, but he just has not been on the court. So I don't know if him coming back makes a difference, but maybe if they can sneak out, I don't know, maybe a Bruce Brown, something like that. I don't know what you would have to give up, probably a first round pick, but maybe something like that. I don't think you got to go and get, DeJounte Murray. I think if you can keep D'Lo somehow, Austin Reeves, Rui, that can be your starting five for the rest of the season. So small
Yeah,
moves, just got to
I
make small
yeah, I do
moves.
agree. They're probably going to need a defender with Vando being out for an extended period, but we'll see and revisit that next week, Matt. Moving on here to the MLB. Really biggest news is that Corbin Burns got traded to the Orioles. I'm sure you hate to hear that. They get
Disgusting.
their ace now. I don't know, Matt. The good get better, I guess you could say. Gonna be a problem for your Yankees here. I'm sure you're not pleased with that. At least you did get Caleb
No.
Ferguson from us. Kind of bolster up your bullpen a little bit. He was kind of up and down the whole season, to be honest. So not a big addition, but more on the Corbin Burns trade. I think this just pushes the O's to another level. They really get their solidified ace there, and with that young team, young core, they're able to hit, with the best of them. I think this just further increases their odds to be the AL East favorites next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say on paper right now they're probably the favorites to win the AL East, but it doesn't necessarily mean you win the World Series because we've seen these wild card teams go on crazy runs. So as long as you get in, you got a shot. But I think what sucks to be a Yankees fan is you see the Corbin Burns trade, and it's what the O's give up. I don't think they really gave up much, to be honest. Like, if I'm the Yankees, like, you couldn't really offer more than the Orioles package if that's the case. Like, or they just didn't want to trade to you. But if you just got outbidded by that, like, come on, that's not a good look if you're Brian Cashman. That's all I gotta say. I still think the Yankees need a starting pitcher. Um, Blake Snell, I don't know. I think this guy's a wild card because he is the Cy Young winner, and the Yankees are the only team that's offered him a contract. So maybe that could work in your advantage because nobody else wants him. So it's like if the Yankees are willing to offer him a contract, maybe they can get a team friendly deal somehow. And if they can pull that off, yeah, I think they got a solid rotation because somebody's going to get injured at some point. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, the Corbin Burns thing was huge. But, I know you make fun of the Dodgers Yankees trade again, trading for a lefty, Caleb Ferguson. But I actually kind of like that move. It's not a, flashy thing, but the Yankees do need left-handed pitching in the bullpen. Funny that the Dodgers are just feeding us left-handed pitching in the bullpen with Victor Gonzalez and now Caleb Ferguson. But I thought he was pretty good for the most part. I think he had like one bad year with you guys, like really bad year that kind of inflated his ERA. But I think for what we gave up, I think he's definitely going to be a solid piece in the rotation. Definitely a sixth, seventh inning kind of guy you can throw out and expect, good results. So I think that was a business move for you guys too, because you guys signed Brazier, right? Ryan Brazier. So you guys need to clear up a roster spot. So come call the
Yeah,
Yankees, and it seems like we're doing a lot of business this summer.
yeah. Oh, we'll see. I mean, not a big name, but I don't know. I'm not focused on the bullpen at all. To be honest, I just want to see this team hit. So
Because you're spoiled. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
am
We get it.
spoiled.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, Matt, let's wrap up here. Um, Foolish Fool of the Week. Who do you got?
I don't have a specific person, but I'm gonna still say with this week, I'm gonna say the Pro Bowl is the foolish fool. Just I know it's better, but it's not up to what I think people want to see. I mean, I watched a little bit of it and it was still hard to watch. I mean, it was just like, I mean the laterals and stuff are cool, but they're not trying. Like you can tell they're not trying it not until the last couple minutes of the game. So there has to be some kind of change in the Pro Bowl. It's still kind of a laughing stock. It's bad when the you could say the Pro Bowl games, like dodgeball, is more entertaining than the actual football game itself. So if that's the case, I think there needs to be some change. I think the kickers should be involved more, honestly. Like I want to see Justin Tucker blasting some kicks, in the Pro Bowl. So we got to see more of that. But yeah, Pro Bowl, not a bad foolish fool, but there needs to be some improvement. So the NFL, I guess, is my foolish fool of the week.
Okay, sounds good. Only say to the 808 thing that's been going on is I guess Tua was in the Pro Bowl, so that was cool. That's about it.
Yeah, he threw a touchdown to Tyreek
Yeah, I think
first
he had two
drive.
touchdowns, but he lost the like passing competition thing or whatever. So I
He
mean,
lost to Dan
whatever, man.
Orlovsky too.
Yeah, whatever. If you actually saw the clip of him, he was like not even taking it seriously. And I guess like Baker yelled at him or something, so he like stopped mid round for a couple
Oh
seconds.
yeah, I saw that.
So I mean it's whatever. Obviously we'd like to see him playing, February football competitively. So yeah, no comment on on the passing stuff. But yeah, Matt, why don't you round us out here with our sports fact of the day?
Ooh, okay. I got a good sports fact. One of my favorite memories in sports. But we'll go back to Super Bowl as it was 51, 2017.
Oh, God.
Tom Brady and the New England Patriots pulled off the amazing 28-3 comeback against Dan Quinn, Kyle Shanahan, Matt Ryan, and the Atlanta Falcons. Down 28-3 in the third. They end up winning 34-28. The biggest choke job in sports, I guess you could say. Um, Tom Brady wins his fifth ring, really cements himself as the GOAT. And I always say this is my bragging moment with you because everybody thought I was an idiot when I said this game wasn't over,
Yep.
and I was right.
Yep.
As we watched that game together.
Yes, you were definitely right. Um, well, with that being said, I guess we'll see how our predictions play out next week. And then we will officially wrap on the Super Bowl and the NFL season for this year. But yeah, as usual, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you guys have a good week, and we will catch you guys later.